give like a little quick brief overview about who I am and how we got mixed up in this whole balcony situation, and we can dive into how we're going to change the world. So I'm Alex McGee. I'm a real estate developer in northern New Jersey. I started my career, out of college. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I became a real estate broker at Massey Napple. That got turned into Cushman & Wakefield, and then that got turned into Aerial Property Advisor. So I had my little time in real estate brokerage, cut my teeth in Brooklyn, and that was all great. It's just I wanted more. So from there, I raised about $2 million and went and bought 23 families in northern New Jersey, just to figure out how to really manage property. From there, that went very well, and then COVID hit. So when COVID hit, all the prices went sky high. So the business plan that I started out with doesn't work anymore. Figure out something else to do, and that's how development came into play. So we were lucky enough to be chosen as designated developers for the city of Orange to buy and construct a 60-unit ground-up project. They sold us their old police station, which was awesome. And then we really got into the development process, and then we had the same problems everybody else has: how to finance this correctly. Why do we have to personally guarantee things? If I'm a limited partner, I'm offering a piece of an LP. How do they get in and out of a deal without really selling the asset or refinancing? It's extremely tough. So that's when Balcony was kind of born. So myself, Dan, Mike, and John, we started talking one day through a series of events, and Balcony kind of came up. It wasn't called Balcony at the time; it was called Brick Trade. We thought Brick Trade was the coolest name to come with a brick marketplace to sell and trade buildings. Obviously, it was taken, so we had to pivot a little bit, and we feel that Balcony is the best term for what we want to do as a company. So that's myself. I'll get more into who Balcony is after the team introduces themselves. So this is my founding team's partners. John.
How's it going? Guys, I'm John Belitsky. As Alex said, I'm a co-founder. We had kind of a similar background. I started in the business also as a broker, as a teenager in the Bronx. I've been a licensed broker in New York City since 1999. And so I've done a lot of multifamily work, repositioning work, went to also Cushman & Wakefield. Before that, I was at Reichel Properties, did some work repositioning B assets in A markets. And then from there, I actually developed a national maintenance company, a design build firm, and then wrapped that up into what is now Abraham & Martin, which is a real estate investment banking firm, as well as a mergers and acquisition shop. So we kind of play in all different types of asset classes, and frankly, I just think money is money, and how you form capital and how you deploy it changes the sort of patina of how you approach these things, but they're fundamentally the same. So I don't really discriminate between these asset classes for the most part. I also have a background in technology. My dad was a computer programmer my whole life as a kid, and also a cab driver. Strange. And so I've always kind of been exposed to technology as well. And so when Web3 really kind of started to form over the past half decade or so, I kind of got pulled into this world, and we saw how this technology could solve a lot of problems, including, by the way, the problem that you're solving at Tough Move. And so when we start to actually discuss what this presentation is about, what I'd like to do is I'd like to reframe the conversation. I know it's called crypto and real estate. We're supposed to be talking about crypto. Forget about crypto. Forget about that term completely. Right? This is a 21st century way to do business. Right? There's a new paradigm. There's a new way to form capital. There's a new capital stack. There's a new way to ensure that events occur and exist on an immutable, right, can't be changed, general public ledger, can be audited by anybody. So if you want to know that minorities are getting, $1.8 billion worth of jobs, anybody can know it, right? And this is all born from Satoshi Nakamoto's white paper on Bitcoin, over a decade ago. And the fundamental problem that was being solved is how can we make trustless systems, right? How can you and I do business together without an intermediary dipping into our pocket just to say, yes, that actually happened, right? So tonight, let's just reframe the conversation. We're not talking about crypto. We're talking about how can we leverage technologies to accomplish all the things that we do, whether that's hiring, subs, or if that's, making distributions from a publicly traded company, whether that's signing off on approvals on a job site and making sure that information is documented and can be sent to some kind of a lender for a construction draw. All these solutions can be had with the technology we're going to discuss tonight.
Hey everyone, my name is Dan Silverman. I come from a real estate family. Real estate development is in my blood. I was really born into it, and I've been super passionate about it my entire life. I've done a little bit of everything in real estate, from brokerage, leasing, development, property management, maintenance, etc. And it's always something I've been, super interested, super passionate about. I got into cryptocurrency in 2017, early 2017, and it became quickly another passion of mine, and I was obsessed with finding what the bridge is between real estate and crypto. And, obviously real estate tokenization was just starting and crowdfunding was starting, and, it made sense, but I always felt it was missing something, and I didn't know what that missing piece of the puzzle was for a while until I learned about NFTs, which was in the later part of 2020. And, a light bulb went off in my head, and I realized, just on its face, a non-fungible token is a great way to describe real estate, because every real estate deal is unique and non-fungible. So it felt as if it were the perfect wrapper to encompass everything about a real estate deal, and everything about the real estate deal could live inside of that NFT and be verified on-chain. All the information, the transaction history, the deed and title could literally be verified on the blockchain. And, essentially that's what kind of brought this whole company together. Alex, Mike, and I have worked together for about 7 years. We own a company called Prime City Ventures. Mike and I have known each other for a lot longer. We're actually first cousins, so I've known him since birth. He comes from the same real estate family as I, as I'm sure he'll get into a little bit. Currently, we have a number of development projects: Hoboken, Jersey City, Long Branch, Orange, New Jersey. In Hoboken, we have a large 1,000-unit plus project, mixed-use development, 3 full city blocks. We're bringing in a bowling alley, a restaurant, even possibly a marijuana dispensary. And it's a really exciting project. We have another project in Long Branch, which we'll get into more tonight, which is in an opportunity zone on the beachfront, right next door to one of Jared Kushner and Extel's project, which is selling for the highest price per foot in the state of New Jersey. So all the projects we have are, Class A, really incredible projects. We're not talking about, random multifamilies in the Midwest. We're talking about beautiful 100-unit plus minimum projects that we're looking to transform the way the capital stack is done to a much more efficient way of doing things that we'll get into a little bit more tonight. I'll let Mike take over.
Hi, my name is Mike Reichel. I too have a background in brokerage, real estate development, property management, construction. Really, with our founding team, we kind of are jacks of all trades in the industry. When we first got into the industry, our whole mentality was to act like sponges and soak up everything that we can and learn as much as we can. We knew that this is not like a 0 mile per hour to 100 mile per hour, real quick type business venture. We wanted to learn as much as we can and then use what we learned to find special places for ourselves in the market. I too am a blockchain enthusiast as well as a real estate crowdfunding enthusiast, and in my brain I know that these are the perfect marriage with each other to make them work. And rather than repeat everything that Dan, Alex, and John said, because a lot of our business history overlaps, that's as simple as that. And we are Balcony DAO, and we are here to change the future of real estate and how it operates.
By a show of hands, who's interacted with NFTs? Who's bought NFTs? You bought NFTs before? Who's in crypto? You're in crypto a little bit? Yeah. You guys, have a cursory knowledge of how things work, right? So our whole goal is, we're a Web3 real estate investment bank. Our mission is to, match NFTs with real world assets. And we feel that, the real estate market or the real estate, how you invest in real estate definitely needs to change. If I'm a regular guy right now and I want to invest in any sort of deal and I'm an LP, I cannot sell my position, or I cannot, get out of my position unless the whole building sells, the whole building refinances, or I sell it entirely. I think that's so inefficient. These guys here are really the people you need to speak to when we talk about NFTs. I want to introduce Dan again. Dan is really our NFT specialist. But really, before you dive in about how we're going to change how real estate is interacting with NFTs, just tell your experience and what you've done this year and kind of just walk them down the line a little bit.
Yeah, so I got into NFTs, like I said, in the latter part of 2020. I started messing around on OpenSea, which I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but it's the largest marketplace for trading digital assets. And I just realized there was this whole other world to crypto. It's, and I started playing around with it. I found this NFT called CryptoPunks, which is one of the original CryptoPunks, and now is one of the most popular. That and Bored Ape Yacht Club. I'm not sure if any of you guys have heard those two names, but those are really like synonymous with NFTs. The thing with those two NFTs is there's nothing really backing them. They're like profile picture NFTs. So, you know, a lot of celebrities like to put them up as their profile pictures, and they're really proof of authenticity. That was the thing that really grabbed me, is that, like, you know, I could verify on the blockchain that I own this. So if I put a screenshot of an NFT that I didn't own, well, you know, I could try to like pretend that I own it, but if you really look deep into it, you could uncover quickly that I don't own it. And if I were to try to sell it, I can't sell a right-click save JPEG. You know, I could only sell the actual image itself. So I was actually with my dad in Florida, and I said, "Hey, Dad, like, what do you think of this? This is called a CryptoPunk. They're like $4,000. I think I'm gonna buy one." He's like, "You are a moron." He's like, "You don't know what you're talking about. You spend $4,000 on a JPEG. Like, you're just an idiot." So I didn't listen to him. I bought one. Fast forward, you know, to now, the cheapest one is $200,000. I sold one for over $1 million profit in 3 months. I've bought and sold many CryptoPunks and many other NFTs as well. But what I came to realize is that, like, NFT 1.0 is the profile picture, like, hype, you know, like celebrity endorsement type project, that a lot of them are going to fail. Like the blue chip ones, like CryptoPunks and Bored Apes, I believe will be around forever. But a lot of them are just money grabs. NFT 2.0 is real world asset backed NFTs, because the technology could easily be applied, like the proof of ownership and the proof of authenticity could be applied to real world assets like real estate, obviously, like we're talking about tonight, like cars, you know, could be the pink slip to your car, like a Rolex or any luxury item, a yacht, any of this stuff, you could prove your ownership via blockchain. So what's going to be in the future, I believe, is that you're going to get both the physical item and then a representation that you own that item, which is an NFT of that item. So really that's like my easy breakdown of what NFTs are and my kind of path and that I've been on in the last like year and a half or so. Sure. And you know, I see like a massive industry just on its own. And also I just wanted to say really quick about the expansion of the Metaverse. That's obviously only going to help NFTs, and I believe that this the whole like COVID pandemic accelerated the advancement of the Metaverse by probably 10 years, because now people want to meet, you know, online. Everyone is used to doing Zoom now, and like the Metaverse is just the next step of that. People are used to meeting online. People aren't as quick to meet in person and get together in person. So, you know, I think that the rapid expansion of both NFTs and the Metaverse are, like, you know, accelerated by everything that's going on today.
You want to describe our platform?
Sure. You know, I think the first thing we ought to do as sort of stewards for this nascent industry is help kind of disambiguate between some of these different ideas and terms. And so people talk about crypto, they talk about NFTs, they talk about the blockchain, we kind of speak about them synonymously. So I think the first thing we ought to do is we should tease these ideas out and start to see how this becomes the new sort of gravity, the new oxygen in the room. This is just how things are going to be done. So firstly, we don't have crypto until we have the blockchain, right? Does anybody here know confidently how the blockchain works? Okay. I wonder if some of you are lying, and you really do, but okay. So it's a very simple concept, right? It kind of operates the way we do as humans, right? It takes sort of parent DNA, this string, literal, right, this number, and it includes it in this derivative string, right? So the second generation string, like us, has the genetics from the parent string, our parents, right? And if I go to any one of you and I take one of your cells and I examine it, I could say, well, I know who your parents are, right? And I know who your cousins are. And I can know this with really great specificity and clarity, right? This is exactly how the blockchain works. It takes the data from the previous block, includes it in the following block, and if the data doesn't add up, it's not the child when the chain breaks, right? So it's a very, very simple concept. I mean, obviously, you can get more complicated. But if you want to play with this, I recommend you make a hashlet. You can go in Python, you know, run up a VS Code, and you can make a hashlet. And now you've created a blockchain, right? That technology in and of itself is not groundbreaking, but it allows us to have crypto, and it allows us to have NFTs, and it allows us to have, in totality, what we're describing now as Web3, which is this entire new universe of possibilities that this opens up, right? So the next thing that happens is we start to look at this and say, okay, we can now determine whether or not these objects have the provenance that they claim. Hugely important, right? Provenance creates title, to Dan's point, right? And title creates ownership. And so this is how this concept is injected into commerce and allows us to build massive new structures very, very, very quickly. Because if we can identify an asset and we can provide clear title to it very quickly, and we can explain to people with great specificity where it came from, what it is, and to whom it belongs, then we can sell it, right? We could sell it very quickly, and we could sell it in a system that's trustless. So what we're doing is we're taking the world's oldest asset class, real estate, and the largest, $326 trillion market cap globally, and we're giving it all the qualities and all the special powers and privileges that this very simple blockchain technology provides it. We're giving it provenance. We're giving it parameters. We're giving it the ability to trade with liquidity. And the first question that we have to ask ourselves is, you have two companies, right? You own a company, you own a company. It's an identical company in this hypothetical scenario. Each one does $100 million of revenue. Your company's publicly traded. It gets audited. Your company's private. It does not get audited. Whose company is worth more money? Right? We're going to pay more for the publicly traded company. We're going to pay more for a company where we get a certain quantum of information and we have a certain level of confidence that that information is valid, it's true, the revenues are correct, it's not being manipulated, right? So the immediate impact of this technology is it makes real world assets more valuable because it takes these opaque assets, makes them transparent. It takes an asset that you have to be here and touch and feel and see in order to transact, and it makes it something that anybody, anywhere, can look at on the blockchain, and they can say, yeah, I'll buy that company, I'll buy that building. And they can do it with total confidence, right? So what we're doing is we're taking all of the data on the building, every single parameter, asset class, location, rentable building area, leasable square footage, income, expenses, encumbrances, air rights, mineral rights, riparian rights, anything you could think of. And we're putting all of that information on chain in the metadata. So if you're going to go and you're going to go take down, let's say 1140 Avenue of America is my first Manhattan office building I worked at Memorial Properties as a child, right? You're going to go buy 1140 Avenue of Americas. Every single detail of that building is going to be in the metadata, accessible on the blockchain. You don't have to go chase this money with enormous pursuit funds and then find out that all the information that was provided to you was maybe not quite right. It's there, and it's been verified. Now you can trade it. And we're gonna put this asset into this wrapper that Dan described, which is the NFT, right? And the NFT is nothing more, to Dan's point, than a non-fungible token. Just means that 1140 Avenue of the Americas is not 1185 Avenue of the Americas. I can't trade you 1.5 1140s for 1185. Doesn't work like that, right? It's a non-fungible token, right? So we put it in this NFT wrapper, which acts as both the LLC, it's both the corporation, it's both a legally formed entity, as well as a tool to fractionalize and trade that asset. So in totality, we have changed provenance, we have described an asset with specificity, we have eliminated the doubt of fraud in terms of what this asset's value is. We've created a new legal wrapper for it to live in, other than an LLC. We fractionalized it and made it tradable with liquidity, which is created by the confidence that we have in the underlying asset and the data that's provided to us. We've revolutionized, in short form, how real estate is built, traded, and financed. The next step is we change how we form capital. Instead of going into public markets with your company that you own that makes $100 million a year, congratulations, you now have the ability to simply have this asset on the blockchain and you can passively receive bids for it. It just is. It's just there, right? And the amount of capital that's in this market is tremendous. At the moment, because we're in the middle of a pretty nasty dip, it's probably like $1 and change trillions of dollars. 6 months ago, it was $3 trillion. In 6 years, it'll probably be $20 trillion. So there's an enormous amount of untapped capital that you can reach out and use to form capital, to make these acquisitions, to trade these assets. And we are incredibly confident that this is how this is going to be done. In fact, when the SEC gives us new guidance on what this industry needs to do to be compliant, we think that the public markets are going to shift towards the crypto markets. Not the crypto market shifting towards the public markets. It's the crypto markets that are going to start to lead these conversations.
You're right. And just to pick off there, the capital stack is very important in how we do business. Since we're a financial product, we have to fit in certain boxes, basically, right? So there's regulation boxes that we're releasing securities. We have to tell the SEC that this is actually happening. There's two buckets that I'm working to our advantage. There's Reg CF, which is a crowdfunding regulation. It allows for accredited and non-accredited investors up to $5 million to invest in a security. Regulation D allows for accredited investors, I think up to $7 million, but they have to be accredited. They have to make over $200,000 a year and have certain net worth requirements. This allows you as a person to sell securities, which is what we are selling. The problems that we kind of came up with as we started this venture was, are we operating under the laws of the US or are we operating in the Metaverse? Right? So a lot of people have tried to operate in the Metaverse, but they've failed every single time. You're still in the US, so you have to use those buckets to your advantage. Now, when you look at what I mentioned and you look at a real estate capital stack, you have perm debt, you have LP finance, and you have your equity piece, right? The same thing applies for Reg CF and Reg D. So if you look at the types of money you can raise per deal, each deal will have a different archetype. So we're going to explain two main archetypes. We're going to have a multifamily archetype, which we're doing in Long Branch, is 23rd Avenue, 30-unit ground-up project, is 30,000 square feet. And we have a condominium archetype, 154 condominium units, it's a $250 million sellout on the beach. Right, so it's two different archetypes, but they work together in how we are going to explain and really change the way that real estate is run. You want to explain 390 Ocean?
Yeah, so 390 Ocean, the one thing you didn't mention also is that it's an opportunity zone deal. So first thing we thought of was well, actually, I'll back up for a second. So it's an opportunity zone deal. However, we're doing it as condos. So if you're selling condos, you can't take advantage of the opportunity zone, because the way the opportunity zone works is that you invest in it. It's to shelter or to defer actually capital gains that you've made in any asset class. It doesn't have to be real estate. It could be crypto. It could be whatever. Stocks, whatever, wherever you made your capital gains, you could put that into this vehicle, into a opportunity zone, defer your taxes until December of 2026. At that point, you pay your taxes, but at that point, the building will have been built, stabilized, refinanced. You pull your money out tax-free, pay your taxes in 2026, and then if you hold it for 10 years from your initial investment, you pay no capital gains on the sale of that asset. So this project just makes sense as a condo project. So my father, who's one of the developers, and his partner Roy Stillman, who's world-renowned international developer, has built a lot in Manhattan, in Florida, and around the world. They were going to ignore the opportunity zone benefits because it just penciled out as a condo project. Then we came in and we said, listen, if we were to pre-sell all the condos, the entire building at cash flow zero, now, as NFTs, each condo representing one, or each NFT representing one condo. The investors are technically investors in the entire capital stack, and they could use it to defer their taxes. And as long as they hold that condo for 10 years, they'll get the opportunity zone benefits. So we want to target people like myself who made large capital gains this year flipping NFTs, or maybe they made capital gains with Shiba Inu or wherever they made it in crypto. They could then get exposure to real estate that they may not know much about, while still maintaining exposure to crypto and NFTs that they do understand, and use it as a tax sheltering vehicle to then defer their taxes. So right now, we're at the point where we're not allowed to sell condos yet. We're working with getting the condo prospectus approved by the DSA of the state of New Jersey. That'll take us until July. So right now, we're raising this quasi-GP position inside the capital stack, and we're actually have our first tranche coming in within the next month of $3 million that's going to be memorialized as an NFT sale. So we're calling these re-NFTs, real estate-backed NFTs, so that this transaction is going to happen on the blockchain. It's going to be big news. I don't know if you guys have seen, but there was a house in Florida that sold about a month ago on the blockchain as an NFT, and it was major news. I had like 30 of my friends send it to me, and it was a pretty sad looking house. It was just big news because it was, you know, one of the first of its kind. I think this news is going to blow that out of the water. I mean, we have a beautiful project. This is probably going to be the nicest building in the state of New Jersey. Roy Stillman, who I'd mentioned, designed every square inch of this building to blow our competition out of the water. We're right on the beach. Every unit, except for 2, are going to have unobstructed beachfront and oceanfront views. And you know, we believe that this is going to be the nicest product in the state. So that's kind of how that one is going to be run. We're going to raise some money now. In July, once the condo prospectus is approved by the state of New Jersey, we're going to release 154 re-NFTs, each representing one condo that could be purchased on-chain using Ethereum or USDC. And then we're going to sell out the entire building that way.
Do you want to just make a distinction on the LLC on property for a second?
Yeah, go ahead. Take it
Yeah,
down.
so the transaction that Dan noted that was sold in Florida, this single family home, was sold by a company called Proppy, which, you know, firstly, it's a $326 trillion industry. We're not disparaging any group. Like, we would love for every single one of you to become our competitors tomorrow. And if all of us in this room split $326 trillion, we'll just be a little bit less wealthy, but I think we'll do okay. So we're certainly not disparaging. In fact, we want them to win, right? Because the more of these companies that do these transactions, the easier it is for us to convince municipalities that they need to adopt this technology as the tool to record transactions, so that soon, hopefully, we don't need paper transactions. Not that we don't need title companies, and we don't need insurance. We don't need paper. Paper's kind of silly, right? It gets burnt, gets lost. So this company, what they did, because we're not there yet, it's very complicated. All the parameters I described for the real estate transactions that we're working on, that describe these buildings with specificity, it takes a lot of work to put those parameters on chain, memorialize them, create an API that's a protocol that you can access, and you can update the information. When you hire your subs, you put that information into that NFT. So it's a working tool, right? And since we don't have that yet, Proppy did something pretty clever. They did this sort of shorthand deal, right? And the shorthand way of doing it was, let's just buy the LLC that owns the house, because that's easier, right? And so that's the transaction they did. This is the second time they've done it. The first time they did it for an $80,000 home. But there's problems with that, right? I mean, this is a business school. Hopefully some of you grok that there's vicarious liability involved with that, right? Somebody could have slipped and fell on the front lawn of that house, you know, yesterday. You bought it today, and tomorrow you get the lawsuit. Guess what? You also bought that with your NFT. So that's not ideal. It's quick. It lets you get to where you want to go, but it's not where we want to end up as an industry. So.
Okay, cool. So I'll talk a little bit about our other archetype, as Alex described, which is our multifamily residential model. And the way that works is a little cleaner, a little more, I guess, easier to understand. So we're basically fractionalizing the entire building, and we're selling off a portion of it based on its terminal value once the property is built. So the sponsor, which is our group and an investor, is holding on to 51% of the real estate-backed NFTs, and we're selling 49%. Once we raise the entire capital stack, we have all the money at day one. So what we're going to do is take that capital and actually make it productive throughout the entire life of construction. The way we do that is by using DeFi, which is kind of like the third pillar of what we're doing. So we have real estate, NFTs, and DeFi. Do you guys know what stablecoins are? Are you familiar with stablecoins? So stablecoin is pegged 1-for-1 to the US dollar. Right now, you could have a stablecoin, or you could earn significant yields on stablecoins anywhere from 8 to 20%. So what we do is we take the cash. If it comes in Ethereum, we convert it to USDC or another stablecoin right away, and we put it into these liquidity pools that are safe, and we don't have to deal with the volatility of crypto going up and down because it's pegged to the US dollar, and we earn yield throughout the entire life of construction while we're drawing down from that capital stack. So we're making the capital productive throughout the entire life of the project, enhancing the yield. So really we're taking the best attributes of both asset classes. Real estate is very stable, but cap rates keep getting compressed. It's hard to like earn a good return on your investment these days. Whereas crypto, you have very high returns and high APY, but the problem is it's very volatile. It goes up and down. It's not as stable as real estate. So you merge the two, and you get real estate enhanced assets that have higher cash flow and are just better overall.
For sure. Let's talk in terms of 23rd Avenue. So I'll give you the real numbers. It's an $8 million total build, right? We have about $3 million of our own money invested as the equity piece. So we have about a $5 million delta to build. Normally you get a construction loan and you build that, right? So we're selling off that $5 million in that Reg CF bucket I was telling you earlier. Let's say that's successful. So now we have the entire capital stack ready to build. We then go and get a TradFi loan for 50% LTV, $4.7 million. So now we have about $5 million that is not being used. So instead of reinvesting this in an ETF, we're holding it in Safe Harbor. It just so happens that Safe Harbor is like a BlockFi account or a Gemini account that gets you 8% over the life of construction. So that $5 million then turns into $800,000 of profit on top of the $5 million over the life of construction. So in real estate, we all know we're just trying to beat zero for most of the time, right? We're not trying to give 10,000 for APY. We're trying to do better than the last guy. So if I can provide someone a double-digit yield in real estate, I win. If I'm beating zero on the bank, I'm winning. Right, so if the stablecoin yield is, let's say, 8%, and a bank is paying me 5%, I'm making a great arbitrage there. So I'm in essence getting a free construction loan by using the financial system that's there right now, combined with DeFi to make everything very de-risked. Now, as a sponsor is concerned, like I'm de-risked the whole entire way. Just because I'm raising the LP, I'm raising it through a way where I'm not necessarily PGing the whole LLP. It's a real estate digital asset. Right? So that we're getting the TradFi on top of it, it just makes everything sing better. Now when we go to refinance, the TradFi gets paid off first in first lien position. But there's so much money left over in stables and making money that everybody gets a higher return. Their cash on cash is through the roof, which is what we want to do.
Yes,
here.
correct. But the point is that in development, margins are of utmost importance. A single change order could completely sink a project. So any way we could juice those margins and increase those yields is a win for us. It also puts deals that were undevelopable and not capitable into the forefront, and then we could go ahead and then develop those deals. So it opens up our deal flow as well as increasing the yield on our current deal flow.
Yep. I know we threw a lot of stuff at you guys, so I want to pause here and ask any questions. We can answer anything, clarify some stuff. Go right ahead.
I have a very novice question.
Sure.
Because what you're talking about sounds incredibly disruptive. And I think there are some players in the real estate game that are going to end up with no chair in this musical chairs.
No. I want to make this clear.
Tell me who are the middlemen that you're cutting out
There is
and no longer have to engage?
There is no cutting out. We're making the system better.
Okay.
I believe we work best together. It's going to take people like myself and people like Jamie Dimon to sit down at a table and work this thing out. Just because it's here. Bitcoin's not getting banned. It's not going anywhere. So the more we can work together and make this thing better for everybody, we all win. And if you look at how big industry has taken crypto, they always try to discredit it before they buy it, right? And they always try to make systems devalue systems before they make their own systems. So I think it's just a matter of time before the big banks really have a massive DeFi system and really take this real estate thing seriously. We are talking to the people at the bigger banks that are handling these digital assets, and best believe they are taking this thing very seriously. On its face, they're looking like, oh, it's this and that, but there's people that are getting paid 6-7 figures a year to study this stuff. Same with the government, right? Although they're not having Bitcoin as a reserve currency, best believe they're paying someone to study this thing, right? This is happening in real. Did I answer your question at all?
It does.
Yeah.
It does. So you're talking about a new paradigm, not
Correct.
changing the old system. Gotcha.
When you own an NFT, is there a cold storage or that OpenSea hat?
Yeah.
That's
You could hold it on a ledger wallet. You can
Okay.
store offline. So it's the same.
You could even store it on a piece of paper.
That's immaterial. So who's the first place lien holder in all real estate in America?
U.S. government.
The U.S. government, right? So if you don't pay your taxes, who owns your house, right? So we can use this in our favor. And so our approach is the local municipalities and the government is our firewall. We make them the signer, the oracle, right? So has anyone heard this term oracle before in this business? So, an oracle is just somebody who confirms.
Go ahead and mute her.
Okay, so an oracle. So an oracle is simply an individual or a group of individuals who are creating consensus around a binary. And the binary is true or false, right? Is it fact or is it fiction, right? Are we all in this room, right? And 5 of you say, yes, I'm in this room, I'm in this room, I'm in this room, I'm in this room. We've reached consensus, right? We've got a quorum, we're in this room, right? So our tool for avoiding the problem that you've noted, which is it would kind of suck if you owned a $100 million building and you went to a bar and you left your phone on the table and then you didn't own a $100 million building, right? That would be kind of a bad system. So our firewall there is let the municipality, let the government sign off on that transaction, right? Which should be interesting for municipalities because in many cases they're owed taxes, right? So they want to know who's transacting. And so you and I make a transaction, we make this trustless transaction, and one of our oracles is the municipality or the city or the state or the federal government, whomever in this instance for this transaction, who says, yep, this happened, it's been recorded, whether digitally or otherwise, or both, and then it's signed off.
What happens if you sell your apartment, like you want to get out?
Mm-hmm.
How do you sell it to somebody else?
The same way you sell it now. I mean, realistically, like how do you own an apartment, I would imagine, right? So how do you know you own it?
Bank told me.
The bank told you, and there's like a bunch of pieces of paper, and we triangulate this idea of property ownership through a preponderance of evidence that suggests that you certainly own it, right? But there is no single oracle of truth where we can say Jason owns his apartment, everybody. Like we know it, it's fact, right? So we're offering another way of doing that. It's just a digital way of triangulating that truth.
And to add on to that, we're building a marketplace that's going to be basically OpenSea meets Zillow. So OpenSea, like I described before, is the marketplace for trading NFTs. Our marketplace will be that, but for trading real estate-backed NFTs. So in the future, someone who wants to sell their condo could upload all the information onto our platform, use our protocol to convert that into a re-NFT, meaning that everything is downloaded on chain, and then sell that asset and accept cryptocurrency for it and trade it easier on our platform, along with listing it wherever else. But when it happens on our platform, it happens instantaneously. So you take it off the market. If someone wants to purchase it, they could buy it in all cash. Or we envision a point in time where we're able to give out a mortgage and pre-approve people so that they put in an offer. Let's say it's 100 ETH to buy a condo. They come in with 30 ETH. We approve them to put up 70 ETH, and we close the transaction that way. So we think that it's just going to expedite the process and make it easier and accessible to everybody.
Correct. And one more point about what you said. Back when I was a child, we had like file cabinets, and then computers were just coming out back in the 90s, right? And then people always say, well, we're not going to, ever get rid of the file cabinets. And you look at city halls, and they have file cabinets and computers, right? And your deed is just a copy of a paper document that's on the internet. The NFTs is just the next logical step. We're still going to have file cabinets, computers, and NFTs. It's just the NFT is the centralized place where everything is going to live. And the real challenge is going to be to get the court system to say that this is ownership. That's what we're trying to do here, right? If the courts say that this is ownership, and I can go to court and say, I own this house, move out because I'm evicting you, that changes the whole paradigm. And that's what one of our goals are. You have a question?
Yeah, 2 questions.
Yeah.
One is, what incentives do local municipalities currently have, or might have in the future for accepting this new technology?
For sure.
And then the other is on your guys' end. Are you worried at all about doing these deals that tie together these massive, like these huge deals that tie together real assets like real estate with a decentralized finance platform in which there are concerns about stable coin liquidity and things like that?
For sure. I'll answer the first question. So cities need something like this. They just don't know it yet. There's a system called the QSIP system, which is a unique identifier that cities use right now to say who owns what lien. As cities grow and as things get more complicated, the NFT is the way to prove everything on a city level. So let's say I'm the city of Orange, and I want to figure out how much I should raise taxes for on these multifamily buildings. Everything is on chain. That's done instantaneously. That helps their job, and that helps them get more revenue. We're already talking to the County of Essex and the County of Monmouth to have some beta tests being run in the projects that we're talking about. So back to what Tanya's point is, like, they're very worried about their jobs being taken, right? But at the same time, they have to understand this technology here. So the best position they can be in is be a forefront and, you know, really just take that beta test on head first and do it. Because if they do it, then they're going to get so much investment from people around the world that want to invest in that city. Look at El Salvador, right? You would never think if we were talking about El Salvador right now just because of the way that their president's acting and how their laws are changing. And I think that's going to happen everywhere. We're just going to be the forefront of that change. Can I answer the second question about liquidity and stablecoins?
Sorry, what? Could you repeat it one more
Just
time?
like the idea, like you were talking about the condo deal that is where you're earning 8% API.
Right.
So you're like getting this arbitrage between the 5%, whatever.
So if that yield dries up.
Exactly.
So, like Alex said earlier, it's as long as we're beating zero, we're winning. I mean, as long as we're not, you know, borrowing money from the bank, we're not paying interest. If we're at zero, we're winning. So, I mean, there was a time, like back before all our times, where they used to pay you that high of interest just to keep your money in the bank. That's no longer the case. So, I just believe that the stage we're at in crypto, those yields are here to stay for the short-term future, at least. It could be a point where those get diminished over time, but for the time being, I think they're here to stay. And you know, it's not going to like destroy our business plan if they go lower.
Those yields are going to inverse, to your point. Instead of getting a 20% yield on a stablecoin, you will get a 2% yield on a stablecoin. You get 20% yield by having to go into the bank and talk to Margaret at the front desk and give her all of your paperwork. Do your whole application. I borrowed money today. I'm sure these guys did too. It takes about 30 seconds. I borrow 30 to 50% LTV against crypto that I deposit. I don't talk to Margaret. I don't have to go into the bank to get the stupid pen and the lollipop. I'm not interested in stationery and confectionery. I want cash, and we just do it very simple. So that will become the best path, the optimized path. They'll invert. We'll find another way to make money. But again, going back to the beginning of the conversation when I started speaking tonight, this is a 21st century way of doing business. This is not about crypto. This is not about a stable coin. This is it. This is a tool that everybody's going to use and they're going to avail themselves to. And so for us to not use it now because we're concerned that it may not yield in the same way in the future would sort of be nothing. Like, it's here today, we got it today, and we're really kind of the first people using it. But we won't be the last.
Yeah, my question wasn't about it, like, because you think it won't yield in the future.
You mean the
but
volatility of
just in
stablecoins keep hanging.
just like today, the volatility of stablecoins and the broader crypto market as we enter this.
So the stablecoin play. Firstly, we're using a third-party group that's going to manage our stablecoin portfolio because there's risk there. You're not getting 8 to 20% because there's no risk. To your point, the way that we want to manage that risk is we want to ladder up that risk. So there are exceedingly low volatility, exceedingly low risk stablecoins that we could use on the low end of the ladder, and obviously more aggressive on the top. There's also Stacks, which is a new chain that's built on top of Bitcoin instead of Ethereum. So all these DeFi apps that we're describing, which you clearly know, are built on Ethereum. Bitcoin was sort of like the original cryptocurrency, but it wasn't programmable currency. And so none of the decentralized finance that we're discussing was built on that graph until Stacks realized they had access to $900 billion worth of Bitcoin, and if they could actually unleash that, it would be quite valuable. So they've done that. So now you can do the same deals that we're talking about, the same DeFi transactions on Bitcoin, and they have this system where you can take the yield and put it directly into a liquidity pool, which is essentially like a savings account for crypto people, and earn 8% on it. That's super volatile because it's Bitcoin. The underlying asset is Bitcoin. But at the same time, today, our view today, in February 22nd, 2022, is Bitcoin's cheap. And so if your duration is long enough, do it. If your investors, if your capital stack is open and has an appetite for that kind of volatility, and they're not going to paper hand, as we say, their investment, I think you stay in Bitcoin.
How do you all think about cost overruns on either project in the event that, like, I paid up front for this NFT that's going to give me a condo, and there's bust, like you said, whatever it is. But I already own the NFT, and, like, it's, that's the question.
So we handle it like we handle it today. I mean, a lot of that risk is on the general contractor and the GMP. So let's say if there's cost overruns, like Jason knows, if if he wouldn't want to give it up. But at the same time, like, it's just that if there was no crypto layer involved and you're investing at a certain price point, and for some reason, fixtures go up 10%, and the general contractor Jason signs and says fixtures are at this price point, and my lawyer is so good that he can't fight it, so he has to pay for it, right?
I would have excluded that. Just saying.
That's the ideal scenario. So a lot of that risk is on the sponsor, I would say, and on that GMP contract. Go ahead.
Okay. First of all, I want to applaud you guys because I think some of the things that you mentioned here.
As you guys were going through your presentation, there was like a whole bunch of gaps in there for me because I am a novice. When you start saying things like Metaverse and whatnot, and I hear these terms get thrown around, but these gentlemen here kind of filled in some of the gaps that were, but I do have some more. So listen, I do want to take one step back first, and if someone could give me somewhat of a better explanation about this Metaverse. Is Metaverse like what you're saying, where I'm buying, using crypto or whatever it may be, but I'm buying a real physical asset, or am I buying a digital asset? Am I buying land in some?
Yeah, you're buying digital assets. So our focus, what got us together in this business, is we are focused on bringing real world assets onto the blockchain, right? And then everything else happens from there.
Okay, is that a metaverse? Or
So the metaverse is a complicated and needless distinction. Here's all you have to know. This is our universe, right? We're all here, right? We're on this terrestrial planet together. We all hang out. We go to bars and restaurants and banks. Everything that's not this is the metaverse. All of it.
Gotcha.
All of it.
There's not just one metaverse either. There's multiple metaverses.
Like Facebook can be one, Instagram can be one, Twitter can be one.
Decentraland,
Decentraland,
Sandbox,
Sandbox,
Superworld.
yeah.
There's many different.
They don't talk to each other, but they're all.
So
Yeah.
yes, to answer your question, if you're investing in one of our RE NFTs, you will own the physical asset, equity piece in the physical asset.
There is digital real estate being sold in metaverses, and one day perhaps we may link up with one of the metaverses. We've already spoken to a couple of doing something where we peg everything in real life to also a counterpart in the metaverse and do some something cool with that. But that's down the line for us. We're focused on a lot of other stuff before anything like that happens.
Understood. So what you guys do is definitely more interest to me, and I believe in what you guys are saying, and that the fact that we have titles and we have all these type of paper deed documents. So when you're talking about the real estate side, I could see getting rid of an attorney by what you're saying, getting rid of a title search by what you're saying.
Yep.
So I was trying, one of the challenges that I saw in that was, okay, typically if I'm selling my property, and let's just say, yeah, I want to show my hand, and I want to say, here's my property, 111 6th Avenue, and whatever it is, and this is how many square feet it is, and this is how much air rights I have, and this is how much I could rent it out per square foot or whatever it may be, right? Typically, so basically what you're saying is the owner shows his hand, and I look at it and it's more valuable that way. Where in the past, the owner shows his hand to the real estate agent, and he kind of molds that into a clay of what it could be and tries to sell what it could be.
Correct.
And how do you overcome that challenge of no longer having, are you looking to eliminate the real estate agent?
No.
Okay.
Look, we don't want to eliminate anybody. In particular, I don't want to disintermediate attorneys. But attorneys have a new job that they need to get bone up their skills with, which is writing smart contracts. And smart contracts take all the same legalese, right? Legalese is a language, just like Python or JavaScript. It's a language. It's compiled by humans and it's executed by humans. Python and JavaScript is a language. It's compiled by humans. It's executed by computers, right? And so we're getting more and more efficient. What these attorneys have to do is they have to start writing language that's executed by computers. At the moment, that language is Solidity, or it's Rust, or Venom, which is sort of a Python derivative, and these are computer languages that are used to program smart contracts. So those attorneys could become developers, or the developers could become sort of de facto attorneys. I don't know how it shapes up.
But typically, the attorney is protecting me, the buyer or the seller, from which technically, if all this works the way it sounds like it should work, I shouldn't have to worry about getting scammed. I shouldn't have to worry about a title search. I shouldn't have to worry about these things that
Correct.
I typically hire an attorney to do. So to me, I see value there. I see value on the side of the digital. I just didn't know how the whole real estate, being that I'm the owner and I'm showing my hand to the world now,
Right.
not to a real estate agent only. How do you get past that challenge?
Well, there's a lot of different ways I could shape up too. So there's public and there's private blockchains, right? So let's go back to the utility. Like, what are we solving for? Are we solving for making sure somebody in Nepal knows what the rent in your building is? Or are we solving for making sure anybody who gets into a transaction with you can verify the rent, right? And so if what we want to do is verify in a trustless system, it's not necessary that it be a public ledger that anybody can identify at any point and say that's your property in specific. It could just be an anonymous wallet, right? Of course, you could back into that. You could sort of triangulate, figure out who that person is. But there will be ways in the future that preserve some modicum of an anonymity for people. Because at the moment, to our buddy who owns a small business versus his publicly traded company, right? If you've ever done an M&A transaction or if you've ever looked at SMB deals, like this is the standard problem. The SMB owner doesn't want to pay taxes, so he negatively gears his business, doesn't want to give any information to a would-be buyer, and the would-be buyer's like, all right, well, I'm going to pay you less money, right? And so to overcome that, the middle market companies typically, they're a little bit larger and they have a little bit more of interest in maximizing yield. What do? They show you everything. It's all public, it's audited, it's all out there. They want to be as much like this gentleman with the publicly traded company as possible. So through time, what we're going to see, I think, is that data wants to be seen, data wants to be transparent, and it behooves us to make that information accessible because it's more valuable.
So yeah, that was my misunderstanding, is that it's verified information versus public information, meaning
It could be, and it could,
it could be both. Yes, it could be both if I wanted to be both.
Right.
But at the
Correct.
end of the day, it's not me just saying, oh, you can make $100,000 a month on this property. It is information saying I am making $100,000, or here's real fact that you can make.
And let's talk about, like you said, showing your hand, right? As a consumer, let's say you got to look at the person you're buying's bank account, right? And you saw every transaction of rent being deposited in there for the past 12 years, whatever it is. You'd have a really good understanding if this is property pay or doesn't pay. But as we all know, no one does that, right? Like I depending on who your seller is, if you're buying a middle market deal, they're probably not showing their bank statements. But if everything is on chain and tenants are paying on chain, and you own an NFT that says this person got X amount of derivatives over 12 months, you can see exactly who's paying. So from the consumer, I feel more comfortable buying this from you because I know for a fact that this person actually is doing a good job operating the building, right? And that's the problem that we're going to solve.
Hey,
Yeah.
hi. Well, just kind of thinking back on your questions, I guess. First of all, I'm the owner, operator, and developer of my own. So in kind of transitioning to like a newer cryptocurrency as a finance platform for us to develop properties, right? So I think you've got essentially two questions. The first one is who's there to safeguard us in terms of like, attorneys. It's their job to kind of safeguard us in terms of like, the title search, the finance, perspective. And in addition to that, who is the regulatory agency in case that you guys hypothetically going bankruptcy, 5 Chapter 11, things like that? Who's there to safeguard us? We're talking about like $150 million.
Well, so just to back up, we have to operate as if we're a regular real estate firm. So we're under the laws of the state of New Jersey. So we have to have a real estate broker's license with this business because we are transacting real estate. So the regulatory authority is the overall state of New Jersey because you would bring a suit in the Department of Banking and Insurance saying that I took security wrong or I misled you, right? So your recourse is pretty large. Same as if we were doing this the regular route and I raised fiat currency. Your recourse is the same. I could be sued under the Superior Court of New Jersey and you have that same recourse to get your money back. That answer that question as far as the governing authority?
And the SEC.
And the SEC, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I mean, I'm relatively young, kind of introduced the idea to kind of older generations who are willing to invest. It's really hard to kind of convert their mentality to like, younger generation, I guess. So, like, what is there, in case like worst scenarios, something goes wrong, obviously, like one company goes down, and who is going to pick them up? Like, there was any transferable of your asset to another company, who is there to
What would happen in today's world without crypto?
I'm sorry?
What would happen in today's world without crypto involved? Like in that same scenario, let's say crypto was not involved at all, and just regular American dollars, what would happen? What would be your recourse?
Well, that's great. That's a great thing because the title, the deed is your your final destination. Who you're going to, like if you're going to litigation, somebody over to kind of like suing you for a certain asset, like
Right.
a certain liability.
So to be clear, we're operating on parallel tracks until the laws change. So everything that's codified digitally is also codified analog.
Mhm.
So when you buy
I agree.
Penthouse 1, there's a lawyer somewhere filling out the paperwork, found that that paperwork with
Right, that's repeatable on
Yes.
the-
correct.
you
So
find-
all NFT doing is a representation of what we agree now is legal and right,
Mhm.
right?
Correct.
I got one more question.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
And
It's on the
Yeah.
market.
so
Right.
your
Yeah.
typical investor, like you said, you're selling a condo. I buy this condo.
Yes.
Basically, water, whatever it may be. Is that a guy who's investing to resell that condo, or is that a guy looking to keep that condo? Are you reaching the residential?
It
consumer,
depends
or
on
are you
where it
reaching
is.
the
In my opinion, let's say 390 Ocean, it's an opportunity zone, so it incentivizes people to hold for 10 years.
Correct.
Let's
Let's
say
say it's not an opportunity zone. How does that change the dynamic of his presentation?
Well, you have a more valuable asset.
Yeah.
So frankly, whether you're gonna flip it or you're gonna own it, I'm telling you that my thesis is that your asset is more valuable once it's on the blockchain. Because let's say you fast forward 10 years from now, and now there's 2 houses for sale, right? Instead of 2 different publicly traded or privately traded companies. Your house and right next door, the identical house in the same suburban crappy cookie cutter neighborhood. Sorry, that's where you live in this right?
That's why I come here, so I can get out of it.
So you have these 2 houses, right? One is on the chain and the other one isn't. They're both being offered for sale. One of them I could see, perfect chain of title on it, right? I could see that there's no environmental issues on the property. I could see that you took out a mortgage on a HELOC and you did a renovation in the house and all of your permits were filed with your local town, and I'm gonna guess Rockland County. And close?
No.
Okay.
But I think my question more was, who is your target investor?
Well, this is what I'm saying.
Is it a resident? Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm
Okay.
saying that I think that
It appeals
I'm saying that you're going to get a better resale value, whether it's an investment property or your own personal residence, if it's on chain, because it provides confidence, transparency, and liquidity that the other property can't. If your property's on chain right now, right, you could theoretically, under the sort of framework that we're describing, put your house up for a mortgage and receive 50%, 60% loan to value in 10 minutes or less, pay it off in 8 minutes, be in and out of the whole deal in 20 minutes. That's not hyperbolic. That is realistically what is going to be happening. At some point, people will be making these types of trades. And so if you have the opportunity to buy a house that gives you instant, immediate access to capital, or one that doesn't, and they're the same exact price, which one are you going to buy? You buy the one that gives you this beneficial treatment, right? So who's the consumer? The consumer are people who like money, right? People who prefer money now to money later, people who prefer more money to less money, those are our consumers.
And the world
if I'm
is.
buying that condo, I'm basically, you're putting a price tag on that condo, and I'm giving you that entire amount up front.
yes.
You could also place an
under this-
offer on it, just like you'd offer on an NFT. So, like, let's say you're listing it for 100 ETH, someone could put an offer in of 70 ETH, and then you have the opportunity to purchase or to accept the offer.
That was kind of where my question was going, because we're hearing a lot about bidding wars in real estate, people, buying for hundreds of $1,000s over
Yeah.
asking.
So you
what
could
does
also
that
set
look
it as
like?
an
Well,
auction. So
yeah.
people sell NFTs as auctions. So you set a bare minimum price. Let's say it's 5 ETH, and you set an auction period of 2 days or a week or whatever. People could start bidding on it, and someone could come in at 5 ETH and then 6 ETH, 7 ETH until it finally sells at the whatever value.
There's like a broader issue with NFTs that I've heard of, and I'm not sure if you guys have had this discussion about it yet. But basically, people have been saying that if you make a new block with like blockchain, with crypto, with NFTs, like it'll use a lot of energy. It'll use like a lot more effort. It'll need a lot of effort to use all of the servers to get a new block. So, do you guys think there might be concern with like local laws and stuff in New York City that try to like lower carbon emissions and stuff?
Well, there's much more efficient chains that are being developed now, but it's an interesting conversation inside the space. It's
Yeah.
kind of cleaved the discussion.
Yeah,
On the one side, there's these people who are like, they've kind of latched onto this narrative that the blockchain is ruining the environment, like we got to fix this.
Yeah.
And so these companies have reduced the amount of computing power necessary to produce these same items. The other side of that conversation, interestingly, are people who say, we should make it more energy intensive. Because as a unit of energy, we're actually selling the input right, electricity to create this thing.
Mhm.
And so the security of that chain is a function of the cost to generate it or to break it. And that's sort of the argument for going the other way. Now, people who deride that as being sort of like, you know, playing fast and loose with the environment are often countered by people who say, well, you know, there's a lot of things that are really terrible for the environment. I'm sure the Zoom call isn't exactly, you know, a walk down, like, you know, Green Lane over here. But also, we're replacing systems of war with demonstrations of power, literal power. That Bitcoin as a unit of measure of power is a literal projection of power that demonstrates authority.
Right.
And so, if that's the future of war, is like generating Bitcoin versus like sending our kids off to, you know, Afghanistan, I don't know, I think I might be for that.
Yeah, the only reason I brought it up is because, especially in New York, they've been really strict on buildings if they're using like a certain amount of energy. And so if you buy like a penthouse and everybody buys a penthouse in a building that uses a lot of energy and they catch on to it, it's a broader issue that I've been thinking of.
There's also at the moment,
yeah,
you know,
if that makes it more efficient, that's great. Yeah.
probably a dozen groups that are mining and generating Bitcoin using all renewable energy. That's one group. There's a company called DLTX that I interviewed, so we're going to have this interview out pretty soon on our website. This guy took a public company in Norway, reverse merged it, made it a private crypto mining company, and he uses only renewable energy. He mines Bitcoin, which is trading at, you know, $38,000 a coin, or 36, whatever it is at the moment, God knows. He does it for $4,000. So he mints a coin for $4,000 using all renewable. So his business is incredibly profitable. He goes 10x every single time he mints, essentially. And that's all renewables.
Hey guys, I got a question online here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Alright. First I wanted to say I get the whole idea super interesting, and I feel like something you should mention is just we're talking about making markets more efficient. The more information you have, the less premium you should have to pay up for that. You have to discount the things that you don't understand and the things that you're buying. So that's what you're trying to help solve. But what I wanted to ask is, this might be kind of basic, stupid, but how do you get information, or how does the information get on chain? Say, as you go, not just at a transaction, but if you buy a lot next to your home and you integrate it into your property, or if you start a new easement or something like that, how does that get updated on the chain, and then how does it get verified?
Thanks for the question. The answer is exactly how you would in the real world, right? So if you join your two lots and now you have one tax lot instead of two, you would demonstrate that in an NFT the same way you would if you had to go down to, you know, your town or county clerk's office or what have you, and do the same thing. So it doesn't really change.
So the town would verify it, or?
Yeah, I mean that's how it works now. Again, to my earlier comment, you know, I want the municipality to be the backstop, the firewall against fraud. Since they're owed the taxes and they have a de facto lien anyway, we might as well make them work a little bit for it.
We pay them enough.
Okay.
Question. So, I mean, talking mostly about like real estate transactions, this kind of stuff. It's certainly kind of the realm of a lot of people in the room, but it's a pretty infrequent event compared to something like rent payments or, you know, tax payments, that kind of thing. If I was looking to expand into that realm,
yes,
if I'm looking to buy a building, it's a lot more attractive if I can actually see verifications.
Well, like, before we answer that question, I want Dan to talk about how, like, he first thought of this idea and the platform he was thinking about, and then we can go into answering more of your question.
I mean, really, my first idea was like a Web3 brokerage. I knew a lot about brokerage, and I knew that, you know, like everything should fit inside this NFT and trade, you know, with alacrity and trade a lot easier with all the information, you know, put inside the chain. So essentially, I started just thinking like it's basically just an easier way to like allow access to everybody. Trying to, you want to?
Yeah, for sure. So like on our portfolio, right? We have 300 units right now in Hoboken, New Jersey. The goal is to upload every unit on chain. So we allow tenants to pay in ETH, USDC, Bitcoin, or whatever. That will get pressed and also make easier for people that have crypto to want to pay the rent in cryptocurrency, obviously, right? So that goes back to your question, right? When everybody pays rent on chain in crypto, it creates a history, it creates a ledger, and it creates your collection report, right? It's all it's happening so fast. So all we're doing is we're shortening the information loop. We're shortening it from a week to we're shortening to an hour, right? So to answer your question, yes, like the goal of Balcony is to not only facilitate financing solutions, but also allow for tenants to pay rent through our portal also, and also allow for financing. So financing happens way faster, way more frequently than sales.
And also, it's an easier way to make distributions too. So if you have a lot of people that own fractional interest or fractional shares of NFTs, you could take the net operating income, put it into the system and proportionally airdrop the revenue to all the holders. So it's just an easier and more transparent way to send distributions out, easier. And then the other thing is I just realize the world is getting more digital. Maybe people don't understand this today, or maybe people are more used to buying homes the traditional way. But I just had a daughter 9 months ago. She's 9 months old, and I try to envision what's the world going to be like when she's my age. And I know she's never going to grow up in a world without Bitcoin. She's never going to grow up in a world without NFTs or without the Metaverse or any of this. She's going to learn all this throughout school. It's going to be normal for her. So I guarantee when she goes to buy a house, it's going to be on the blockchain. In 30 years from now, when she's in my position and I'm my father's age, this is going to be just common stuff. We're at the forefront of something so new and revolutionary that a lot of people aren't adopters today, but in 30 years from now, I've no doubt that as the world becomes more digitalized, it's going to be commonplace.
We'll take one or two more questions, and I want John to show a how-to and how to claim a deed before we get out of here.
Okay, yeah.
Go ahead.
So I know on OpenSeas, with NFTs, if you're an artist, you can collect royalties. You can create a thing where you sell it and then you can collect royalties.
The answer is yes.
So yeah, I mean, especially when you consider how much millennials and Gen Z, if you go on TikTok, it's real estate has turned into a bit of an art form.
Yes.
It's a show form, it's a con form.
Exactly. And then the other thing is just in general, I'm concerned about, I watched this talk that this guy gave about how people play so much more fast and loose with digital money than with hard paper money. And I mean, you see just
sports gambling
sports gambling, general credit, consumer credit debt. It seems like people just were willing to take on more digital debt than to spend real money.
I would just say the big thing about the real estate backed NFTs is that they're backed by real estate and they're pegged to the underlying value of that real estate. So a lot of these other NFTs, there's nothing backing them. So when I told you I sold a CryptoPunk for $1 million, the next one of that type, I kind of sold the top of the market. The next one of that type sold for half the price. So there's nothing really backing or protecting that floor value. So with real estate, the floor value is protected. Someone might be willing to overpay for an asset. It's kind of happening now. You see people paying 3.5 caps for real estate, but the floor value is protected by what the underlying real estate is actually worth. So you're not going to get crushed. It's not going to lose 90% of its value like some of these other PFP projects might.
And to your point, we hope that people want to spend more money faster in real estate and diversify. So if we can provide an off-ramp to a guy that's made $20 million in Dogecoin and doesn't know what to do with it, and he wants to put it in actual hard property and get a refinance on it, that's something that we can provide, right? We view Balcony as Dan was saying, to service our children, our children's children. We were on a call with Ryan Serhant from $1 Million Listing the other day, and he was saying that he's envisioning what a 13-year-old Fortnite player is going to sell property when they're 25, and he wants to build a Web3 brokerage that matches that archetype. That Fortnite guy that is a master at Fortnite, he's going to one day sell buildings. And when you look at it from that perspective, it changes the way you view things. I realized I was old and I'm 30, and I was talking to my nephews, and I'm like, how do you get information? He's like, TikTok. I'm like, you look at TikTok for the news? He's like, yeah. He's like, what do you do? I'm like, YouTube. He's like, you're old, Uncle Alex. You watch YouTube? So that little thing right there is huge, right? And as these kids get older, they're going to want to interact with things like a video game. They're not going to want to go to a bank and sit down and get their credit report out and show them what their job is. It's not going to be a thing in 20 years. So we're trying to stay ahead of the game.
To your point, their attention span is very limited.
Exactly.
To TikTok video. So then to your point, when they get to the age of doing a real estate transaction, they're going to want to do the 20-minute deal versus the 20-day deal.
They want their information now and as fast as possible.
Let me give you one better. Let's say, when are you paid typically for employment today? if you have a salary position, when do you
Every
think?
2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks. Why?
Companies
I think that'd be done instantly.
People are getting paid in the metaverse every second right now. I don't mean an individual is individually being paid every second. I'm saying individuals are receiving 1 second worth of compensation. The unit of measure of compensation has gone from 2 weeks to 1 second. To 1 second, right? So we've accelerated how money is distributed. We've changed how finance works. At the moment, if you have an employer, you are providing free financing to this corporation in exchange for the promise of a year's worth of work, maybe, unless they decide to fire you, in which case they give you 2 weeks' notice. It's kind of a crap trade. And so, decentralized finance, crypto, we've changed how this works. You get paid every second, literally, right?
Which is like kind of going back to like the whole getting the courts to recognize this kind of thing. Do you guys have like plans in place? Are you working on that? Like how to get courts to do that? Like
Yes.
like,
We're
plan
working
to
on
bring
it.
like
Yeah.
suits, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So
That's
like
awesome.
in my day job, I'm a developer, obviously, right? So I'm really good at negotiating with cities and how to get public land, and also good at negotiating tax statements with the city. And you, with my government experience, you get how to enact change, right? And it starts at the local level. You need city buy-in. You want that mayor that wants to put his city on and says, "Hey, I'm smart. We're thinking super futuristic. This is what we're doing." Right, and when you explain it in that guise, and you also lead with the fact that I'm not trying to get rid of people's jobs, that's a big selling point. Because everybody's looking for a leg up. People always want to attach their name to a bill that's going to change the way people do things. That's not going to change. Now back to the tax abatements question. So with tax abatements in New Jersey, you have to hire a professional that writes or can help you write your abatement, right? So they look at your numbers and they come up with a negotiation tactic on how to get the best deal from the city. The guy that I hired wrote the tax abatement law on the books, right? Wealth of knowledge. So when I mentioned NFTs, he's like, "Oh my God, it's ownership. They need to know about this," right? Because like we're merging the universes, and I think us being like '90s babies, we are so poised to talk to the younger kids and also talk to the older people, right? Because we grew up before all this stuff. We understand it, but a lot of times we excel in a room face to face because we were raised like that, right? So I think this team right here is best suited to not only pitch the crypto degens, but also pitch people in power, because all it takes is that one city to say, "Yes, I want to try this out," and it works. It goes like wildfire. I think it's a matter of time. If not us, someone else is going to do it.
It's absolutely inevitable.
Yeah.
There's no justification for having file cabinets full of paper that don't relate to actionable data and assets. I mean, it's a silly system.
Yeah. Yeah. So you want to show them how they can be a part of the Balcony movement?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're whitelisting our token right now, which if you guys are new to the space, whitelist allows you access to purchase. And without being whitelisted, we can't sell you. So our whitelist is available at balconydao.com.
Can you pull it up?
So here's our website. So you would connect your MetaMask wallet. So what's happening here, for those of you who are uninitiated, is...
Can't wallet connect?
What's that?
I can't wallet connect?
No, I don't think we have it here. I don't think Columbia
New
University...
mobile and I can't do it.
So
You gotta do it through MetaMask.
So your MetaMask,
You gotta go through
yeah.
MetaMask wallet, yeah. So you'll go... First thing you need to do is download MetaMask, right? So if you guys have never traded crypto before, step one, you download a MetaMask wallet. MetaMask wallet is like your wallet in real life. It doesn't do anything except it has a password to it. And that password is that hash lib that we described at the beginning of the conversation. That's your public address. You can give that to anyone. That's like your email address. You can give it to me, you can give it to your grandmother, you can give it to a guy who wants to mug you on the street. Nobody can do anything with it. It's useless, okay? Except you could receive money for it. So maybe the guy who wants to mug you also wants to pay you, in which case it's good. Give him that public address. So you take that you take this wallet rather, and you are going to want to connect your details to this wallet using that address. It's going to provide you with what's called a seed phrase, and the seed phrase is this randomly generated group of words. It'll be like dog, cat, seabird, house.
Don't lose your seed phrase ever. Put it in a safe.
Yeah.
If you're stories of people who've lost hundreds of millions of dollars in Bitcoin because they misplaced their seed phrase. So
yeah, take your seed phrase, write it on a piece of paper, give it to your wife. That's my recommendation to you. Unless you don't trust her, in which case, put it someplace else. But never, ever, 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 ever give anybody your seed phrase under any circumstances, regardless of how nicely they ask you. That's your seed phrase, right? And it's only used to recover the funds in your wallet. So you'll take your seed phrase, you'll store that, and then you will go and you will claim deed on our website, and that is going to allow you to purchase a contract for free. It's going to charge you what's called gas on the Ethereum network. The gas on the Ethereum network is literally the fee paid to the people who take all of the data for your transaction and they lump it into these little blocks on the blockchain, make sure it fits in there nicely, and verify that it happened. It is more expensive in the middle of the day in New York City than it is at 2 o'clock in the morning in New York City because it's dynamically priced. So if you guys are night owls, it's probably when you want to do it. But you'll claim the deed, and that will go into your wallet. And a virtual representation of your ownership of this completely unique asset, which is one of our X number of balcony deeds, will live in your wallet. And that is your first step into the metaverse. And it will allow you to subsequently purchase our next token, which we'll be offering soon, which I don't think we're going to discuss quite yet tonight.
Gotta wait for that one, guys. But I want to end this. If you scroll to the bottom, if you want to stay more in touch with us, we're creating a mailing list. So at the bottom of our page, nice pictures and words and stuff, obviously. But you can sign up there for our mailing list. You can find us on all the socials. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm pretty accessible.
You can join our Discord.
But
Our emails are just our first name at balconydao.com. Dan, Mike, Alex, and John at balconydao.com.
And this is my Twitter. I'm just at John Belitsky. Anybody here use Twitter? You guys Twitter users? Yeah. Obviously, Josh and me are doing.
What is the significance of the DAO?
The DAO?
Oh, okay. So the DAO is another sort of step in this. So we described Web3, right? You've got your blockchain, which provides you the ability to create crypto, which allows you to also have NFTs, right? The next piece of this evolution was the creation of what's called decentralized autonomous organizations, of which we are a flavor. A decentralized autonomous organization allows us, actually, I was in a room in Denver on Saturday, and I made a DAO, right? And the way that happened was these guys I know wanted people to be able to come together and pitch VCs, and there was no event that allowed that to happen. So they went into their pocket, they spent $350 an hour, and we rented this space in Denver for all of us to pitch. And they came up to me, they're like, look, we spent a couple grand here today, which is fine, but is there a way for us to get other people to participate in this that isn't like seedy, that gives them upside? I said, actually there is, a decentralized autonomous organization. And so what we did was, we just chartered this, it's almost like a corporation, where we own our fractional shares of it, and it makes these decisions in a decentralized way, autonomously, and all the decisions we make, all of our criteria, and all of the outcomes are memorialized in smart contracts, just like what we've been describing all night, and it allows us to make decisions very rapidly, raise capital extremely quickly, and distribute proportionate value among all of the members immediately. And so I don't have to trust that you're going to pay me for being part of your partnership for the property you're buying across the street. We bought it as a DAO. We all own our proportionate share, and immediately distributes those assets pursuant to smart contracts. So these types of organizations are changing everything, because in addition to paying people every second, for example, they also have permissionless employment. Right? And permissionless employment means that a DAO can hire anybody anywhere in the world without even putting out like a help wanted ad. Right. You wander over to a job board, it says, find me a building, put a mortgage on it, I'll just do that. You just grab that, you do it, you get paid.
Right. And there's DAOs right now that have every sort of want to them, right? So there's one called Links DAO, and their goal is to buy a top 100 golf course in the country and have membership, so it's not like a regular golf course. You can come as you are, you don't have to wear a collared shirt or whatever, right? And they're selling membership tickets to this DAO, right? There's also a DAO right now trying to buy the Denver Broncos DAO. They're trying to buy a football team, right? There is a DAO called the Constitution DAO. They came in second to buy the Constitution of the United States of America, and they only lost to Citadel for like $44 million. So a bunch of people, like a bunch of crypto guys, are getting together and buying things. So imagine one day you go to ESPN and Cryptodamus 444 owns the whole Broncos, right? That changes everything, right? So it also is like the next version of LLCs. So take an operating agreement, right? If you have a disagreement, you have to go to a court and you have to get whatever judge render whatever verdict. A DAO does that autonomously, so it's code that's written in. So Wyoming is the first state to recognize a DAO LLC as an own type of LLC. So you can basically open an LLC called a DAO LLC, and everything that's digital is law. So you don't have to have a paper contract to codify our business relationship. So that means I can change whatever code on the second, and that whatever at that time period is now admissible in court, which is massive.
Very similar to a Web3 version of a workers' co-op. So every worker and laborer within the company owns their fair share of equity within that DAO.
And do you pay taxes?
Of course.
Yeah, you operate like a regular company.
As a resident.
It's like an S Corp, LLC, DAO. It's brand new, yeah.
Municipalities are quickly trying to adopt new DAO structures. So the Marshall Islands is the latest one I heard of, which is, I think, even better than Wyoming. We spoke to, I don't know if you guys remember the cat attorney. Remember the guy during the pandemic was like, he was attorney on a call with like City Hall, and he's like, I'm not a cat because there was a cat intro.
Yeah.
So I was talking to the cat attorney in Denver, which is another interview you guys will see soon, I hope. And cat attorneys, he's going to go to Abbott in Texas, where he lives, and he wants Abbott to develop DAO LLC structures as well that recognize DAOs. The issue with these structures, the thing that needs sort of this new legal treatment, is if we make this DAO, we obviously don't want to be personally liable for whatever may happen. We can't have unlimited vicarious liability. So the DAO LLC format recognizes that there's this new type of ownership structure, and we may have raised from 100,000 people or 10 million people or 1 billion people, and obviously we can't be responsible for every single one of those outcomes. And so it recognizes this, and it creates sort of a short form legally for us to operate.
Yep.
I'm glad I asked that question.
I'm glad you did too.
So I just want to thank you guys for taking the time coming out with us. If you have any questions, we're very accessible. Hope to see you guys very soon. And stay in touch. This community is a helping community. We're not ones to keep things close to the vest. When we succeed, we all succeed. So if you find you can add value to us, we're open. We want partners. We want to, because if you think about it, in this room here, we're going to change the world in some sort of way. I really believe that. So if we can help do it together, great. Just thank you for everything, guys. I really appreciate it. It's been a really great time. We have free T-shirts.